Welcome to Pastor G's Roundtable. Hello, my name is Simpiwe Kwana Kamachikiza, and you are welcome to this episode, very interesting episode today, where we're going to be talking about biofeedback. I know in life, life is so complex. There's a number of things we know and other things that we don't know, and things that we get to be introduced to that are very beneficial and helpful to many people. The topic we're going to be talking about today is something I've experienced, and I've seen a lot of change in my life. When I say life is complex, it needs people to coach you to it. There are life coaches, there are business coaches, there are relationship coaches, but there's also health coaches. Today, our guest is a health coach who is going to introduce to us something I didn't know for all my life, and I was introduced by a friend. And just to tell you one benefit that had happened, I weighed myself this morning, and I'm weighing 78.9 from 100 kgs. Maybe you need to know this is not a marketing gimmick. This is a health benefit. It's something you need to really know. I'm not an expert in it. We have an expert who's our guest today. Her name is Andrea Venter. She will tell us more about who she is and what she does and what biofeedback is. I'm sure everybody has been waiting. What are you going to be talking about that has caused you so much weight loss? It's not about weight loss program. It's about a healthy lifestyle, which she's going to be delving more on it. Welcome, Andrea, and thank you so much for joining us on the episode of Pastor G's Roundtable. We are conversing about anything and everything. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for welcoming me to participate in this discussion and to share my passion with your listeners. My name is Andrea Venter, and I'm a health coach. I run a small business in East London called The Wellness Alternative, where we predominantly use biofeedback, as you've explained, to guide people in their health and wellness practices or journeys, or wherever they're at, in whatever state their body is at in time.
I guess I'm right when I say not many people know about biofeedback. As I'm saying, maybe I'm old-fashioned. I didn't know about it until I was introduced. The purpose really today is for making people to be familiar about it, understand what it is and what are the benefits and where they can get to find you to get the benefits I receive, not only for me, but for my family. The entire family, from myself, my wife, my kids have gone through the same, and through your office. And thank you so much for what you've done. Feel lighter, feel younger, and I'm sure someone would definitely want to know what this is and how can I really go through it and be looking young like you. I'm looking younger than my age and I feel younger. So because of knowing the health benefits that come from the technique of biofeedback, maybe let me allow you to go deep more in terms of telling us what it is, what it can do.
Of course. So biofeedback was designed originally for being able to treat astronauts in space because they aren't able to see doctors, they aren't able to take medicine. So the Russians sort of designed a system where we'd be able to understand frequencies of the body to ascertain what's going on. In anything, all organic matter has stable and unstable frequencies, and that's basically what we're deriving from the data, is to see that if there's a unstable frequency, that's something that's going wrong in the body. And from for example, the headphones we use, they pull in the frequency of your body, so we're able to see what data comes through. So various diseases would be commonly known, like under a frequency of 0.4, could be cardiovascular diseases or lung diseases. So you get various types of biofeedback. Anything, so bio is body and it's feedback, so anything could be biofeedback. What we are talking specifically about when we're talking about this technology is quantum resonance scanning. And it uses a non-linear system, and that by saying non-linear, it's not one direct route to find the cause of your illness. So there will be multiple facets of the cause of the illness, and that's what we'll be able to ascertain here. So we look at, for example, when we're scanning, we're looking at your allergies, your food toxins, your environmental toxins, most importantly pathogens, which most people don't know about. Pathogens are a collection of bacteria, viruses, parasites, worms and funguses. A little bit like the smaller ones are prions and amoebas, and they do a lot of damage in our body that people don't know about. We have heard about things like COVID, which is a virus. We have heard about things like HIV, Salmonella is a bacteria, Candida, yeast infection, those sorts of things. Those are all caused by very microscopic bugs that do damage to your body. And ultimately through biofeedback, we try and pick that up and see where that's going.
Am I correct to say any other x-rays and other stuff get to miss all these things that you just mentioned, the pathogens and all that stuff?
Unfortunately, yes.
And you continue to live a life thinking you're 100% right, the next minute you drop dead. And I guess the alternative into the biofeedback is the fact that it goes deep into understanding and going through and seeing the minute things in your body, which you're going to explain.
Exactly. So when you're looking at biofeedback, you're not looking at an organ, you're looking at a cellular frequency. So a cell becomes a tissue, which becomes an organ. So when you're in radiology, or you're doing blood work, or you're doing x-rays, or MRIs and CT scans, you're looking at the organs itself, you're not looking cellular. And in cells contain our genetics. So biofeedback is able to ascertain in your genetics which way they're going. How have you kept your body healthy up till now, and where are you going because of the same disease? All diseases have a line of path where they would go. They'd start somewhere. Someone's not diabetic just like that. Someone doesn't just have cancer. They've probably led up to 20 different diseases and conditions that have been built up that create those conditions for someone to say have a heart attack. And small little things get missed when it comes to that, because we're not looking at a cellular frequency. Looking at a cellular frequency involves things like biopsy. That's invasive. It's an injection into your tissues, into your organs. You first have to do a scan so that they can see where the needle needs to go in order to take that tissue so they can then go and test it. So with regards to biofeedback, we're able to do all of that at an 85 to 95% accuracy. Thereafter, once we've seen what's going on, we're also able to treat it with the same frequencies. So we tell the body to switch on by receiving your frequency and then sending it back and saying it's time to start working now. But what I have found is when you're looking at this data, because there's about 4,000 things you can look for on the biofeedback data.
I was taken aback. I was amazed when I could see my skin from the sole of my feet to
the images.
I was just amazed with the images that are showing numbers and way we're interpreting it. We're still going to get to that, to know, for one, to be able to understand the technique itself and what it can read out, and how do you get to help people to understand that. But you're still talking to the issue of the actual scan that comes out and tells you more information.
So it's up to, for example, a health practitioner can use this information based on their knowledge, would be how they treat you. You get the data from the machine, but because it is so much, you need to be able to ascertain or understand a little bit of physiology and anatomy to decipher and analyze the data. So for example, if the machine pulls out and it says this person's diabetic and they've got cancer and they're about to have a heart attack, to tell this person all three things, you need to sort of gauge what is that actually meaning. Is it really diabetes? Is it really a heart attack? Or is there a connection between the two diseases that it's about to start causing those kinds of conditions? So the benefit of biofeedback is that you can also prevent diseases before they start.
Maybe talking about that. Because a lot of people tend to look at the curative stage of diseases instead of looking at the preventative process. Before you get to be having a disease, you have to go through a lot of stuff in terms of healthy living. Like I can talk for myself. When I read my scan and when you also interpreted it, it told me, it reflected a lot of things that I would have suffered later on. But now, because of a lifestyle change, I'm able to prevent going into that stage. Can you want to talk more on that?
Yeah, so when we see the data and the frequencies, you'll see the frequencies, the closest to 0.00 is likely what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go lower on the 0.425s and above, these are items that will be coming soon. And you'll have like maybe 20 different conditions, and you'll find the strongest condition, but you'll see at the end it will say, okay, it's going to lead to cancer or autoimmune.
Yeah.
Now you've got to take all of that information and say, okay, if the person's getting a lot of cardiovascular issues, and we work with different things like, I work with the blood type and the diet as well as biofeedback together. The biofeedback will show you maybe it's dairy, maybe it's wheat, maybe it's asbestos, maybe it's perfume. And the biofeedback will indicate all of those, and you start
Let's make an
process
example
of elimination.
of exactly what happened.
Okay.
I don't take alcohol.
Yeah.
But when you were looking through my scan, you said to me, I see a lot of alcohol in your system. And only to realize that it was perfume, and I've been like using perfume in my body instead of the clothes. And I've been using a lot of
hand sanitizer
during COVID and all of that. And we still continue using hand sanitizer with 70% alcohol, and people are thinking, when you get tested, then there's a lot of alcohol in your body. That's very interesting.
Exactly, and then if you're not able to pick that up through your own, you're using perfume and you're not feeling the effects of that alcohol, how are you going to know that 4 or 5 years down the line, spraying it maybe directly on your skin is not going to harm you? That's the whole point of biofeedback. And every time you scan, your frequency changes. Because your frequency and your body's frequency will change with what you eat, what you drink, and what environmental toxins you're exposed to. And we can go as far as saying it's going as what you're thinking. So if you're thinking very negatively, you'll find that the body's very sick, person has cardiovascular issues or anxiety, gut issues. Person's very happy, you'll find generally that the scan's quite good and the body's healing on its own.
So it's more an integrative setup.
You
don't only look at the health, but you also look at the lifestyle in general.
You have to. You're treating a whole body. You're not just treating different organs. And
the way you think,
with respect to the medical industry, I love what they do, but they have been trained to cure. Whereas I think when integrative medicine and functional medicine started coming out, it's to understand that we don't really quite want to cure things anymore. We actually want to prevent them so everybody can have a really good quality life. And as you do your biofeedback monthly or weekly or however long you choose to work with the data and yourself, you'll find that things change, but you change, and you feel that you change, and you feel your personality's changed, or you've got more energy, or you're not as tired, you're sleeping really well. All these factors, play a part.
Prevention is better than cure. My qualification in environmental health, that was key. It's all about prevention better than cure, and that's
the first thing you actually said to me on your first appointment. Prevention is better than cure.
Exactly. It's just in my blood system. We talk about it all the time. So in terms of then synergies with the traditional medicine, are there clashes, or does biofeedback actually is it aligned into the natural or traditional medicine? Or are there any clashes? Because any new thing that comes into the system, there will always be problems, and then maybe doctors say, what is this? We don't even trust it. That will lead then to a question that talks to qualifications for one to be able to handle the biofeedback technique and be able to interpret it and analyze it and assist one to be able to go forward.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because it is quite it's a bone of contention, I would always say, in the medical industry, is that because biofeedback and the way that the data is gathered, it's been gathered by medical doctors, right? Because they needed to treat the astronauts, so they also needed to know what cardiosclerosis is and atherosclerosis and all these diseases that you see on the biofeedback. They were designed and the data was collected by doctors, as well as the frequencies were collected to send that back. However, it's not an approved by FDA standards tool of diagnosis. So we don't choose to diagnose people, we just see the whole story and we start working with that person. Personally, I enjoy working with doctors. I'm not against the traditional medicine at all. I truly feel that they can work together. Again, prevention or cure, where's that clients at? Are we looking to cure? Because if they're on medicine, we need to keep them on medicine until they are healthy enough not to be on that medicine. You can't just be like, well, go off your medicine and we can fix you naturally.
Yeah.
You really need to understand that there's a difference. And so with biofeedback and quantum resonance, because you do not need to be a qualified doctor to use these machines, you really need to, as a practitioner, take on that responsibility to say, okay, I still need ethical behavior. I still need to maintain and understand what are these diseases that are coming through. If I don't understand them and they're coming up, why am I treating someone? So it's self-knowledge that you have to do if you aren't able to become a medical doctor. However, I truly wish that medical doctors would use these as a quicker form of diagnosis. Because currently, your form of diagnosis in the medical industry is first blood work. And then that blood work needs to go on to scanning. So whether you do CT or MRI or biopsies if you're looking for cancer. But those blood tests could give us 100 different diseases. Whereas biofeedback could narrow it down to 20, and then the doctors could direct and start their real testing very quickly and a little bit more affordable, because if you're testing for 20 things as opposed to 100, it's a little bit cheaper. And so that's why I think and it's also non-invasive. So before you have to send a patient for those kinds of invasive testings, not everybody likes a needle. Not everybody's, some people are claustrophobic to get into the MRI machine. Some people don't want to be exposed to radiation. So this is a much safer way to do so. The only thing we can't use biofeedback for is pregnant women, because the data hasn't been gathered for 2 humans in one body. So it's pointless doing that. The strength.
I'm sure astronauts were never allowed to go up pregnant.
No. Absolutely not. So it's in that sense, we can also use it with kids, and it's not also scary injections. And
that was going to be my
next
question with kids. From what age do you would want to gather that information? Because I think it's in every parent's interest to get to see anything that can be detrimental to any child, that you get to prevent from that age. Because a lot of things and a lot of conditions and diseases that we have, we realize when we are over 20, 30, but they started when we were still young. And you get to know from that age. So you say even kids are allowed to go through the biofeedback, and it is
100%. I have done a 1-month-old baby, where I wasn't able to get a lot of her data and find specific things. Preferably like to do it by 4 years old, but I definitely can scan 1-month-olds if I really wanted to. Because the treatments, you can do treatments through this. I would be hesitant to do the treatments if I don't know the child, I don't know the history and what I'm treating. Because you can treat with medicine. And if I'm treating a child with ibuprofen and that's not actually very good for them, that same frequency is going to go back. So you just got to know and make sure that you understand the child first before you're giving them frequency medicines. I would say that's the only dangerous part. Or if an elderly person's on high blood pressure medication and you start treating them to lower their blood pressure while they're on medication, there could actually physically be an interaction. But yeah, I would say children it's the most, for me, I agree with you, it's the most important thing to actually understand. Because we get so many ADHD children, we get so many children with skin issues, and viral and bacterial stomachs, and then the first thing they do is go to the doctor. But the time is that they need the fevers and the snotty noses, that's all the body's learning how to fight these pathogens that we've spoken about. And if the body doesn't learn how to do that, eventually we also get very sick in our adult life.
I can attest to what biofeedback has done for me in terms of sinusitis, which I was suffering a lot from. And when you realized from my data that it was all related to dairy and many other things, and maybe you're still going to talk to the issue of the importance of people knowing their blood type, because you get to then coach us in eating the right food according to our blood type, which has caused me so much improvement in terms of my lifestyle and my health and all of that. You are not going to believe how much improvement. Actually, I do not struggle with sinusitis anymore. I used to scratch my nose and sneeze all the time. I stopped dairy because that was an issue with me, and when I stopped it, and I realized if I cheat on dairy, immediately sinusitis comes back, and I really can attest to how accurate the data comes out of the biofeedback. And then the risks. Do you think one could have this machine and be able to analyze data from home? Can you have it as a personal thing that I don't want to go to Andrea every time which was going to be my next question. If you've been through your system and your technique and you then have been assessed, how long must one continue to be going through the system? Or is there any time when you say, I think we're done, please focus on this lifestyle. I don't need you to come back all the time because I can see an improvement.
Yes. So biofeedback you can do as often as you want it to, like but weekly, not every day or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So firstly, what I like to do is get all my clients' issues and we start working on the most prominent ones to see if others were secondary. And the length of time I would recommend them to keep coming back is exactly the length of time that I see the scan, like the conditions come out of the red zone, for example. So if though I see it's completely diet related and I feel that I don't need to keep using supplements in that, I'm going to say to the clients, I think this is completely diet related. We do need to focus on this for 2 to 3 months and then come back. There are some clients on medication where I need to see them monthly or every second week just to make sure that their dose of medication is not overdosing. Because that's a risk. If someone's coming up here and I'm seeing their medications damaging them, I can't say stop it, as we said earlier. So I have to then help that client manage the dosage, understand why the client was on medication in the first place. And if that understanding isn't being grasped, I will keep trying to train. And now that you say coming back to the blood type diets and that sort of thing, and whether this is safe to use in the house, I would personally love every household to have a biofeedback scanning machine. I would personally love to train everybody to use it because there are minimum 3 to 4 people in a household. So I do understand to come and see me, eat healthily, change your whole lifestyle, change your clothing to natural fibers, etc. It's an extremely costly thing, especially if you've got to keep doing it all the time. So I would love people to get this, and then you start training. And you'll find when I first started training, I realized, this keeps coming up, or this keeps coming up, and why can I fix this with one person but not with another person? Or why do we get 3 weeks in and we're doing great, but then there's a stall? And that's when I started understanding it's not just the biofeedback data I've got to use. I've got to use other things that I know in the health industry, like your blood type diets, to me is the most important thing. So to get that and you can't change your blood type diet. You can change anything else here, but you can't change your blood type and the way your body will respond to the food. So that for me is the most important thing, is to understand that, get them on the right diet, because as soon as the body's being fed the right things, all of this should start clearing out very quickly. Your pathogens rely on what's going on in your blood and in your guts, and if you're not healing that, you're just going to be on the same cycle all the time. No matter what this says, it'll keep changing, but for the worse.
What is important is indeed you are a health coach. Others like me would just have that data and analyze it and think, okay, let me do this. But I would not have someone who would coach to say, this is what you need to do. It can be dangerous in the sense that I just have the data and it ends there. I don't have anyone to coach me to say, okay, this is what you have to do. But I like the fact that you say you would prefer if everybody had it, and then the next step would be, okay, I see some flesh is in danger. What do I need to do? Let me go to a coach to coach me on what I need to do.
Or give me a call, or email me, or rather at least start understanding how your body works. Because this all this data and how it changes. For example, you go off your dairy for 2 weeks and you feel that everything's clearing out, and you scan yourself if you had the machine, and you go, oh, there's no more dairy harming my system. Yes, this doesn't feel bad. Then you go have dairy, then go scan yourself and see exactly what it did to you, and then all your diseases come up, and you go, sure, did the dairy have that much of an impact on me? Because once it's sinus, then it's lack of oxygen, then it's headaches. So we can't always only think that we are healthy, because there's always something going on, and it's not just one. So it's not just sinusitis, and there would be respiratory, and there would be other things that are going on, a little bit of enteritis. So in understanding that, you would need someone to coach you through this. The different kinds of
scans. There are many people like you and many coaches out there who can be able to take people through the process. Like I say, this was very unique and rare in the area, and when we found you, we found Jewel. And if one would want to definitely get to be coached by you and get to be scanned, how could one get hold of you and then you can be able to go through the process?
Okay, so definitely by phone. everybody contacts me mostly by phone, but I do have a website, thewellnessalternative.co.za.
Yeah.
People contact me on Instagram, they contact me on Facebook, but mostly it's been word of mouth, and I do like it that way. But just to go back to being able to understand this as a general public member, one needs to understand that I also didn't qualify as a medical practitioner.
Yeah.
I've done a few things. I've done my NLP, which that's led me to understand quantum physics and trying to understand how this is actually possible.
Interesting. Quantum physics.
So in that sense, it's just to make sure that you don't go, oh, okay, so garlic is hindering me, we remove the garlic, or and then we go medicate with what a recommendation was.
Yeah.
You've got to then think what's going on there. I don't always want to medicate someone and say, okay, well, let's go get an anti-inflammatory because your stomach is showing inflamed. It's like, let's rather remove the food. So there's so many different coaching methods. My coach, if she sells machines, she coaches.
Okay.
I have seen that you get machines that you can buy, and I would really recommend people rather contact me and if they want the machine, so I can guide them, because I've seen my machine at 3 times the price on some of the websites, and I just think that that's unnecessary with no training. You get simpler machines as well. So you get a machine that's maybe a 1-minute scan, and then all the information and the suggestions are there for you as well. But Tinka and myself, we basically would set people up and do proper training and sit down how to read the data, and then thereafter you provide commercial systems throughout the year. Okay, this is what's happening. For example, if you said to me, this is what I'm seeing, what's going on, and I'll say, okay, just run another test, try this and see if we can find out.
Are there certain people that are discouraged from using it? Being scanned through the biofeedback?
I wouldn't think
except
so.
the pregnant.
Pregnancies, but I wouldn't think so. There's no danger at all.
Okay.
Besides pregnancies, no one that needs to detox, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely safe to use, completely.
I'm sure you have specific, as we close, I'm sure you have specific people that you have had to go through their systems and the data, and I'm not saying divulge confidential information, but examples of conditions that you've seen a lot of improvement besides me, like serious conditions,
yes,
some
definitely.
cancer, you name them, all those serious things that at least you could advise people to say, if you go through this, you are able to detect it and pick it up from the beginning and then help it.
For sure, I had one lady, she was desperate to see me on a Tuesday because she had a shoulder operation planned for a Thursday. She had been for many scans. The shoulder was so bad she couldn't indicate while she was driving, which could become a hindrance and danger to society and herself.
Exactly.
She did the scan just to see, because the doctors can't find anything on the x-rays, there's no reason for this, so that's the alternative option, or the last option was operation. When I looked on the biofeedback scan, I said, look, I don't see anything wrong with the shoulder, so the doctors are right there. What I'm seeing feeding problems to the shoulder, so there's no injury or anything, but I see that dairy is the problem. It's creating blockages with the arteries around here, so you're not getting enough blood and oxygen here, and it's damaging the bone and the ligaments around your shoulder. So she asked me if she should postpone the operation. So I said, it's up to you, but I really don't see anything wrong. So going under anesthetic is and getting cut open is quite invasive. Having a shoulder joint replaced is, a permanent thing. And so I said, just give it a week and see, let me know. Otherwise you can always then, schedule your operation again. Within 7 days, she had absolutely no shoulder pain, and it was literally dairy that caused the problem. Removal of dairy. So she saved herself or her medical aid quite a lot of money, and the pain and the recovery that would take 6 or 7 months to then recover from that shoulder, properly. I've seen people come off of blood pressure medication, which is huge, in 2 months, 3 months, some take 6 months, but to not have to rely for 40 years on a medicine anymore, and the damage thereafter is always rewarding for me. I've picked up things like someone had a hernia that was really not working well for her bowels because it was pushing up on everything. Well, I picked up the hernia and she didn't know she had it, so she went and confirmed it with medical procedures. They operated and took the hernia out. Well, fixed the hernia, I think they meshed it. But there's just so much you can do that's this to me is magic.
Yeah, it is indeed magic.
It's magic. It's my passion. I don't doubt it at all. The 95% for me is 100% because I scan myself, I use it, and I feel the benefits. I go and eat garlic, which I don't eat for 6 months, and then it comes up on my scanning machine. So, and it tells me what it does to me, you know. So, it's just it's an amazing option to have to everybody. And the technology is actually open source. So if you're able to build yourself this whole machine, like the way that the software would interpret on the computer, if you could do that, you could get the access to the information. It's free, it's out there, and that's why it just makes you think a little bit that there's more to the world and having a quality life and living a quality life than always being sick. And having to go to a doctor to medicate, or every 6 months doing this, or getting vaccines and that sort of thing. Because this literally can tell you everything.
I wish I could allow you to continue to talk and tell us about all the wonderful things that Biofeedback does, which it has done for me. I will allow you then to, in closing, just maybe wrap up, because our next episode on Pastor G's Roundtable, conversing about anything and anything, is definitely going to be looking into in-depth system and how it works and what it entails, and show some few so that people can just get to understand what it is.
Yes.
So as we wrap up, I'll give it to you, then I close and thank you.
Remember,
you've got to subscribe to Pastor G's Roundtable. Over to you.
All I can say is I believe that, if you ever feel that there's something wrong or even not wrong, check it out. A little sniffle, a little shoulder pain. Find a way to use Biofeedback to check it out, because a lot of the time you think you're healthy, but you don't know how healthy feels yet. And that's what I often find with clients. So take notes, be aware of your body, implement some important changes in your life that we've read about. The trends are there because you could change your whole life and prevent so much more. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate it. It has been wonderful, eye-opening, not only for me. I know I've experienced it and I have seen some changes in my life. And I want to believe that people watching and listening to this podcast will definitely know now that there is something called Biofeedback and what it can do for you and all its benefits, and that it is available. So continue watching Pastor G's Roundtable and make sure that you subscribe. The next episode will be talking about in-depth information on the Biofeedback. And thank you so much for watching, and thank you for listening. God bless.